All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. It looks like we've got a quorum here and we've got some people joining us. We appreciate you taking the time to spend a little moment here with us this early afternoon. And we're excited to share with you some of our insights in moving your PeopleSoft HCM environment to the cloud, to the Oracle Cloud. Hopefully, we'll be able to pull back some of the covers or concerns that are shared amongst many PeopleSoft clients in regards to what that journey may look like, and also provide you some confidence in making that transition to the cloud. My name is Kevin Gardner, and I'm a regional director for Evosis. Been in the healthcare space for about 15 years, and I'll be joined here today with Jamie White. Jamie, you want to go ahead and jump in and say hi real quick?
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jamie, and Kevin and I will be working with you today. Unfortunately, Mike got pulled away, and so we're going to be running the show. So, Kevin, It's all you, sir.
All right, perfect, thanks. And so, yeah, we'll miss Mike. Those of you that have had a chance to interact with Mike or will get a chance, he's a great guy and very, very good source of knowledge. So, as Jamie said, we'll excuse him. And so I want to run you through the agenda of what we're looking at today as we discuss a few things. And this will give you a quick overview of what we're taking a look at. I just want to remind you too, if there's any questions, go ahead and feel free to put them in the chat, and Jamie and I can kind of field those most likely towards the end of the presentation here. But what you can expect here over the next 45 minutes is, why cloud, why now? We'll talk a little about the value of the cloud. We'll get into how do you get there and where do you start, right? I mean, that's always top of mind for people looking at making this move. Also assessing your current PeopleSoft environment, the customizations, infrastructure, and cost associated with that. And we'll move into some of the outcome-based delivery and design. This comes a lot from the experience that we've picked up, obviously, through doing this many, many times. And we'll share some of the KPIs and outcome-based methodology that have been developed for this process for you. And then lastly, we'll close it up and kind of bring things together with what's in your PeopleSoft closet and talk a little bit about our assessment offer if that's something of interest and where we might be able to help out. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump in here and just talk about a few things of why cloud and why now, right? And so as we take a look at this first slide here, we understand that COVID has really exposed on-premise solution and the limitations that are there. And you see that cartoon off to the right, which is always kind of interesting and funny, right? A lot of people have, moving to the cloud on their roadmap and something that, they are planning on doing. And COVID, as you can see, came in like a wrecking ball for many organizations and really drove urgency and visibility to the need for that. And so when you look at some of the issues that came along over this last 2 years, the access, right, to on-prem solution, not having readily help available or direction of where to get that. But more or less, when you're looking at an HCM solution, the complexity of, the disparate systems that are inside the organization, whether that's, recruiting, learning, analytics, we know safety, health and safety was a big issue for, a lot of organizations in tracking, various protocols and procedures. And now with, the vaccine and the possible mandates that are there, how important that is to track who's, received their vaccinations and who's not. That really flows into the workforce management tools, not having access to some of those things. This is important to help the organization to be agile and to really take advantage of, what's there and how to budget properly. Some of the areas of the self-service access, the scope and utility of the on-prem system, right, was very challenging. And cloud really opens that up for a lot of organizations. We're going to talk about a lot of it here in just a minute. But more or less, getting behind enhancements and addressing some of the major issues that are there, the on-prem solution just hasn't been able to keep up with the fast-paced environment of the business. So you take those things that we just talked about and you couple that with broader challenges in healthcare, anywhere from, the financial health of the organization to having mobile access to engage your employees or even applicants that are coming into the organization. You look at the affordability of healthcare and the costs and what's going on, outcome-based models, right? And there's just a lot of changes that are here in the workforce, and we're seeing a lot of things kind of turned upside down, and organizations are having to pivot and really change the way they not only engage their own employees and the safety of the employees, but how they also attract and retain those employees. So, there's a variety of challenges that are really faced with us here in healthcare, and HR and moving your systems to the cloud is a big part of helping the organization kind of move in that direction. So as Jamie and I are out, we talk with customers, we talk to a lot of customers, and we're also going to incorporate some of our information here today to an IDC report that's out. But here's kind of what we hear from a lot of customers, right? Is that they want a modern interface. We have this ability to interact a lot with technology in our lives, and we expect, applications to perform a certain way or maybe even look a certain way. So they're looking at that modernization of the utilities that they're using at work. And, in healthcare, we've seen this need for rapid recruiting and onboarding, right? The pandemic brought an interesting onset of challenges where some organizations had to furlough people and then bring them back. And so, as COVID is heated up and kind of brought down, there's that need for the insight for the organization and also bringing people inside. But more or less, having that single solution across the HCM really simplifies access and usage. A lot of the lines of business in organizations really want to have a system that houses a lot of the things that they use versus having disparate systems and having to jump in and out of various systems. Workforce management, a big obstacle in having access and insight to be able to make necessary changes, whether that's you've got different locations that are operating, or moving personnel from place to place. Those are all issues that are there, but more or less, what we hear a lot of is being able to have access anywhere, anytime. And so, as people got put inside their homes versus being on site, having that access, or even being able to access their information via their mobile devices is very important. So these are some of the things that are kind of top of mind as we are talking to PeopleSoft customers. And this is really going to flow into our next conversation here, which is, what we hear a lot of and what's there. And so you think about this, not being able to have the ability to, enhance the application or make changes quickly is very challenging. And some people, in their fear of moving to the cloud, right, is that there's a lot of tribal knowledge to the application. And what's going to be lost if there is a movement to the cloud, or if there is a change? What type of reports, are lost, or things that have been customized or developed inside the organization? How does that change? Having a need to that plan that's outlined to strategically move to the cloud is something that is sometimes a mystery or not understood by a lot of organizations. And we're here to help out with that. And this really goes even further as you look at the cost of moving, the automation tools, the use of third parties, right? I mean, these are all factors in what's taking place. So here's the reality of it. And this is a great kind of outline, as you see, as there's constraints in various areas. IT infrastructure is trying to keep up, right? You've got, hardware refresh and things that have to take place. The data, gathering data from all the different systems and making use of that is oftentimes challenging. So you can see the ability to respond for the organization is challenged with the pace on which the business is moving up above, right? So if you take customer expectations, for instance, being able to engage mobily, or being able to take something where you can communicate differently and quicker, right? Those are all challenges. And PeopleSoft tried addressing some of these things with a liquid UI and selective adoption and regulatory updates, but it really just isn't enough to provide that agility for the business. Jamie, is there anything that you want to say or kind of add at all before we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I think the reality of the situation, and we talked a little bit on the previous slide, you mentioned talent as one area. With the aging of PeopleSoft, keeping and getting that talent, in particular younger talent that is looking for advancement into new technologies. So it is kind of creating a bit of a wall to recruit and add additional resources for those organizations that do lose resources within the PeopleSoft world.
Perfect, thank you. And that's really, what's happened, right? Is we understand that these needs are something that are there, and the last 2 years have really accelerated or uncovered a lot of those challenges that have existed. And so we wanted to share with you just a couple of thoughts from an IDC report that was put out. This was roughly involved 350 organizations and roughly 2,000 employees across HR and IT, right? And the study was really done across migrating human capital management to the cloud, and what are some of the challenges and the outcomes, and what do people face as they make this journey. And so just basically, off the top, some of those thoughts were that cloud systems are particularly useful when disruptions cause business to rely largely on employees who work from home. Again, what's taken place is provided the employee to be taken out of the actual on-site workforce and put in their home, and having access to the systems has been a huge challenge. A lot of customers, talked about in this report the reduction of burden on IT, right? They want to reduce that burden. They want to be able to manage maybe the application or have access to reports without having to lean on IT, but more importantly, an improved user experience. Again, going back to how we interact in our own personal lives, people are expecting that kind of on the job as well, the interactions of applications. But you'll see at the bottom, nearly 40% of respondents said improvement in employee retention was the biggest area that they saw, the applications brought in improving the overall experience. So having insight to the workforce and, having that clarity to make adjustments as needed, again, allowing the business to be more agile is very important these days. So let's take this a little bit further and come to the next slide here and take a look at what were some of the challenges that they thought were going to take place as they migrated. And so, when you look at this, there's a couple things that are really happening here. Is that organizations, that have migrated to the cloud said that the needs of a department or a constituency were the greatest obstacle to overcome. And so the lack of technical skills in the IT department also presented challenges. So that was from the expected side. You look at the customizations, the turnover in key positions, but the reality of it is that in the end, post-migration, customization did not represent or present as big as challenges as predicted, right? And so you kind of see that more towards the bottom. The biggest thing that was really interesting about this study is that they basically provided that one of the biggest barriers was a lack of business case. And that's really what we're hoping to get into here in just a minute, is helping your organization maybe understand where that business case may lie and where we may be able to help out from an Avosa standpoint in that journey to the cloud. So here were some of the benefits of the migration. And so for those organizations that completed the migration to the cloud, these were kind of a range, and you see that anywhere from productivity to enhanced employee engagement. I think more importantly, you see things like the quicker turnaround and gaining insight. They had access to data that was a lot cleaner and quicker, whether that was through, dashboards or reporting, allowed them that insight. I think it's really interesting when you take a note at some of the percentages down there at the bottom. They're listed in green, like the 68% reduction in payroll time or the 79% improved reporting to productivity. These are all major enhancements to the business, allowing you to make a more calculated business decision and helping things run efficiently in managing your workforce. So let's move here from some of these. Again, we could spend all day on some of these percentages and the impact of this report, but the main thing is addressing the challenges, right? And really looking at where those lie and what moving to the cloud looks like. So Jamie, if you want to go ahead and jump in and take over from here and share some of your insights, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. And it's a great way to start to talk about building a business case by actually looking at some of the benefits that others that have gone before you have achieved. So those green items specifically at the bottom of the screen were Oracle customers based on an Oracle HCM survey. So that's very telling. And when you start to look at moving from PeopleSoft to the Oracle Cloud, what you start to see is those benefits really do make sense. When you move from an aging technology with separate models to a single data model, you're going to be faster. You're going to have a single source of truth. You're going to be able to make better decisions. When you reduce customizations, the ability to be more personal, intuitive, and in a more receptive to the end user community is obvious. The fact that although PeopleSoft has been around and has done a lot of great things trying to bring forward additional technology, it's been limited in the ability to bring that emerging tech. So things around remote process automation and the like, they've had organizations have to look at other resources. So how do we move that forward and really make this intelligent, contextual, give you the real-time insights that you need from a single data source? Because when you have those customizations, it created issues with integrations. All of those third-party systems create issues with integrations. What we're talking about is driving a process with reporting and dashboards and access that makes it easier. And keep in mind, this is the same access that your recruits are going to be looking at when they're considering coming to your organization, and how they interact with it and how they manage it and feel comfortable. So it's adaptable, it's flexible, based on the needs of the organization. And then, of course, when you talk about upgrades in PeopleSoft world and the on-premise world, they're big, they're seldom, they're timely, they're costly, and you really have to plan for them. With the cloud model, you're getting quarterly updates. They're rapid, they're automatic, and they're secure because this is all being done in a single platform setup. So it's all managed together. It's all nice and tight. And what that starts to do is help you build the business case as an organization. So let's talk about, how do we build that business case? And you have to know where you're starting from. So we're going to talk about assessing your PeopleSoft environment from the start. So how do we do this? Well, Evosys uses an assessment tool that will drill down deeply into your organization. We're going to use that tool to then extract information and identify insights to help you understand where there's opportunity for performance improvement, return on investment, and the like, and where there are those gaps. And we don't expect there's going to be significant gaps, but where there are gaps, we're going to identify what pre-built solutions that we have that we can place in there, all on Oracle, all in the platform as a service scenario within Oracle, and then move it forward, and then help you adopt to the cloud. And then ultimately, if you're looking for the assistance moving forward to support all of that. But when we talk about the assessment, I just want to put a thought in your head. When we talk about the assessment, it's a free automated assessment. This is not requiring a great deal of time and effort, and we'll talk about that here a little bit more momentarily. And what that assessment's going to do is that's going to give you a snapshot of your current landscape. We'll talk a lot about cloud compatibility here in a second. You're going to do a RICE analysis as far as your reports and their interfaces, extensions, workflows. You're going to understand your data volumes and everything around that. And then we're going to look at the proposed landscape in recommended approach. So it's great to have usage information delivered. how many of what are you using, who's using it, and the like. And when you drill down further into that information, as an example, here's an assessment of payroll specifically over the number of years. How many different types of payroll did you have to run? What are your configuration parameters? Different numbers of pay scales, types, and the like. These are a lot of things that you would typically have to go and find on your own, right? And spend the time and effort to gather. We've gathered it for you through the automated assessment process. And as you'll see, this is an example of an Oracle customer, but this assessment tool has been developed and designed to work with Oracle E-Business Suite, PeopleSoft, SAP, and some other solutions as well, because we recognize a lot of on-premise users are out there considering moving to the cloud. So this is a great tool to start to understand your start point and where you're coming from, if you will. But more importantly, and one of the things that we've gotten feedback is the most value in doing the assessment is the ability to do key feature mapping. So what do you use today, and where is it in the Oracle Cloud solution? So we can map process to process specifically for the functions that you're currently using, and maybe more importantly, identify additional functionality that you can take advantage moving forward. So this is a great way for you to know where you're going with the solution. And as Kevin talked about the IDC report, what he talked about, one of the big areas that was a key focus was the need of the departments and what were the departmental needs. Well, how do you have a conversation with your departments if you don't know what feature functionality you're going to have moving forward? This gives you the insight that you need in order to have that conversation internally within the organization with your management as to how you can move forward, right? And what that does is that gives you the ability then to move to a performance-based metric to help drive the implementation as well as the long-term utilization of the solution. So what eBussist delivers, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit, as part of the implementation, we're going to put in place key performance indicators for specific business areas that you want as an organization to improve. So in this case, we're talking about an organization that's looking specifically at onboarding and efficiency. Today, it's taking 30 hours to onboard their new employees. Their goal is 18 hours. Now, 30 hours, they're still in the bottom quartile. Even if they move to 18 hours, they haven't even gotten to the middle. But the goal has been identified, and they're directly involved in that process, and there are dashboards that they're using throughout the process. So they can measure it from the time they start to roll out Oracle and start to gather that information and see how they've improved on that process. And what's great about that is they can then see dashboards as to how they're doing. This is an example of a dashboard around performance completion, performance analysis completion, and how everybody's doing. And in having that visibility, you now know who's using it, how many people are using it, what percentage is been completed by department, business unit, location. Now you have insight that you're running your business from through not just going live, but post go live and through the future life of the Oracle solution. So you have real-time analytics that drive value, drive insight, and every organization we talk to talks about they want to make sure that they have system adoption. How do they drive that system adoption? The dashboards and these KPIs are giving you insight, not necessarily just to business processes within HCM, but the broader view of how is the system being utilized, by how many people, who's using it at what level. right? So this is providing detailed insight as to the different components of the solution and who's using what, when, and where.
Hey, Jamie, and something that we've seen too with clients, right, in this area is it really helps uncover whether there's a training opportunity or if there's something inside the system from a business flow perspective that needs to be changed or, adopted in some sort, right? And so this gives them that ability to address those areas where, hey, if there's, low usage in one area, maybe that employee needs additional training. If they're working through the system in various areas and get caught up somewhere, maybe they need, some help there, or maybe something needs to be adjusted, right?
Absolutely. And as you can see in this example, this customer, they had an adoptability rate of 70% after the first month. Their CEO was not happy. He wanted over 90% in the first month. And that's what he was using to drive at the executive level to point out that they needed to do a better job using the tools that were put in place for the team. So when you do that assessment and you look at that assessment and look at what it starts to provide you, what it starts to do is provide you a great deal of information to build that business case and build the plan. So, we talk about using the assessment to focus on outcomes-based design and delivery. What we haven't talked about is who EvoSys is and why we think we can do this for you. So I'm going to let Kevin talk about that here for a moment.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. And so, when you look at a partner that comes to the table to be able to help you out in a transformational project like this, it's really important that they come with a set of skills and obviously experience, to the table. And so, maybe just some high level in regards to, who we are and what we do. We've been around for, 15 plus years actually. And we've actually got pretty close to 1,200 Oracle Cloud clients. So, we've done this a lot, and that's really helped us develop a center of excellence in regards to these processes. And you'll see on this slide here, maybe why this would be important to you, as a possible client, is you can see that we just operate inside the Oracle ecosystem. We're not doing any other applications, and we obviously do the full suite of Oracle applications, anywhere from HCM to ERP, EPM, and also CX, right, into the analytics and the extensions. And so really what that means to you as a client is that you're getting consultants that are just Oracle focused and experienced, right? They've been inside the application, they know it, and you're also going to see that they'll come with a certain set of skills that will help accelerate the process of this movement to the cloud, and also oftentimes de-risk the project and control cost. And when you look at our relationship with Oracle, you'll see that we've been awarded a couple of recognition in some areas. One of those being HCM. We've been Partner of the Year, as well as ERP. And we really pride ourselves on making sure that when people invest that amount of money in Oracle, that they're getting a return on that investment and they're having a successful go live. So that kind of flows down to the next slide here, which really talks, a little bit about what we've developed, from our side. And maybe before I go into that, this is really just kind of a race car slide really quickly. You can see that there's a variety of clients that we worked with. There's a lot of really great stories that we could tell on this slide. And if we have the opportunity to engage with you, possibly on a one-on-one, we can share some of these and maybe even provide them as references for you. But this is just kind of that race car slide of some of the logos and organizations that we've worked with and seen an impact in making that transition to the cloud. And so you heard us talk just a little bit about our experience and being around and really just working inside the Oracle ecosystem, and what that's provided us with is a center of excellence, and that's provided our customers with accelerators that come to the table, right? And you heard me use the terms of reducing the cost of the overall implementation, because we have a set of tools and things that are used from a best practice standpoint. We really feel like we're able to help our clients accelerate that process to the cloud. And so when you look at our pre-built reports and KPI library, we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. But we've got a set of reports. Jamie showed you just a few minutes ago, one of those reports from an employee performance perspective and their adoption rate. We've got many reports that sit inside this library that are already kind of built, pre-built and ready to function for your system. But I think more importantly, when you look at, our familiarity with healthcare, the integration framework as it relates to some of the applications, whether that's your EMR or you see Kronos on here, EDI, some of those other things, we obviously know how to work with those applications and how they integrate inside the systems, which is also very important. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the data conversion tools that are used. Jamie's going to hit on some of that. That includes some RPA and some other stuff. But more importantly, I think all in all, what you need to get is there's ready to use solutions, right? We've got things that are ready to go that again help accelerate that process or movement to the cloud. All right, I think Jamie, you're going to jump in here to these some of these reports. Is that right? And what's their insight?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So part of the reporting and part of what we're talking towards is driving the use of key performance indicators and reports to manage the business. So part of what we're going to take out of those assessments and those conversations is development of those KPIs. And I'll just point you to the bottom right corner. This is criteria that you're helping to establish. So what are the rates that you want to hit? What percentages, what levels? So you can really manage the business, not just from day one, but moving forward organizationally. And the reason we look at this and we think it's such a critical part of the conversation is that EvoSys is also willing to use these key performance indicators and work with you in an out-based contracting model to put risk into the conversation to help you achieve these KPIs. We have customers that have identified a KPI and maybe 3 months post go live, they still haven't achieved it. And they've been doing what they needed to do. We'll stay on board and we'll keep working with them to help them achieve that KPI because that's part of what the program is. So that combination of understanding where you're coming from, where you're going to, what the KPIs are to use to drive that process, and then an outcome-based model really gives you as an organization control to your destiny, right?
And Jamie, maybe just another quick tidbit on that. A lot of organizations like the fact that we come to the table with a vested interest in making sure they're successful. That's kind of why we tie that to the back end, in some of the overall payment, right? But more importantly, being able to capture that overall return on investment to the organization is a big deal. And a lot of organizations kind of fail to have a mechanism in place to understand what that looks like. And so this is a great way of being able to help accomplish that and also allow us to come to the table to show that we're invested in making sure you're successful as well.
Absolutely. And the other part, Kevin, and it's a good point, the other part is it gives you as an organization the ability to continue to show value that you've gained within the solution. Because over time and over those quarterly updates, there'll be additional enhancements. And you can continue to track the growth and the value, the improvement in the indicators for the organization. So when the question comes from senior management, well, what did we get out of this? Why do we want to do this? You can show that, show the value and demonstrate that. And I've been in this industry for a long time, and I know that's a challenge for almost every single organization we talk to, is how do you demonstrate that and how do you have that conversation with your senior management? So it's a great way to do it. And another great way to show that value is through the transformational technologies that the solution's going to deliver and that we're going to take advantage of as part of the implementation, as well as post go live. And those are things around the digital assistants. So chatbots, the ability for your team to ask for time off, check PTO balances, check on holidays, whatever information you want to put out there and accessible through that smart device, the phone, the iPad, whatever it might be, and give your team access anywhere, anytime access. Really opens up the doors from a value standpoint. And then moving to that RPA capability and taking advantage of the technology to remove some of the manual steps that your team does today in managing systems and utilizing that to automate the process and streamline. And one of those areas is around data management. When we talk to a lot of organizations, what they struggle with, particularly if you had multiple solutions, multiple systems, if you've acquired multiple organizations, there's a lot of data out there that you have to manage. And we can help manage it as a service and figure out how you're going to manage the data archiving component of that. But just as important, how do you move it into your new solution? So we're going to help you develop a migration strategy based on that common model that you have in the Oracle Cloud. We're going to extract the data from your different systems. We're going to transform that data to a single data format that fits for the cloud and resolves any of the data issues that you had in your past system. So if you need to reduce the number of job descriptions or codes or payroll codes or whatever it might be, this is an ideal time to take advantage of it as you transform that data, because you can do it in a consistent and secure manner and drive the process forward. That will then help you take advantage of the pre-built report library. Oracle provides pre-built reports in the cloud. On top of that, EvoSys provides additional reports. And what we've come to realize is by delivering those report libraries, it reduces a significant amount of customization. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits or side things that are identified as part of the assessment is how many reports that are out there, how many of them have been used in the last year, which ones haven't been used in over a year. That kind of information gives you an idea as to where you may need to spend time developing any specific reports, but chances are a lot of reports you recognize you won't need anymore. And that'll help that change management process organizationally, right? How do you move forward with it and take advantage of it? And that remote or robotic process automation also helps with the change management, because what we're talking about doing is taking processes that are manual and automating them wherever possible. So we'll do it on the configuration, we'll do it with the data, but we're also going to work with you to understand how you can take advantage of it for the quarterly updates and automate the testing. So you're not manually managing the testing, right? You're using robotic process automation to manage the testing for you, streamlining that process, taking your team a few steps away so they can manage it, but not have to have their hands on the process on a day-to-day basis. So really a significant change in how organizations are able to take advantage of the technology, gain benefit. And when you go back to some of those benefits that were realized as far as HR team productivity improvements and things like that, this is a perfect example, some perfect areas where those benefits were derived. So as we start to move towards the end here, I'll just kind of wrap up by saying that having access to reports and having insight is great information. But what we're going to look at in the dashboards that we're going to help deliver are going to look at you from organizationally from a much broader set of KPIs. So yes, you're always going to look at process optimization and how long does it take to do things around recruitment or performance evaluations or things of that nature. We've talked about system adoption already, but there is a lot of information output. And where can you get that information? Kevin talked about workforce planning and management, and there's a great deal of that, and you can start to see where departments and locations are taking advantage of it. The other big area that we have key performance indicators are around audit and compliance. So we can start to show you where you have conflicts, where you have issues, what your statistics are. And these are statistics a lot of organizations traditionally have not been able to collect in older systems, or collect through a lot of different, lot of time and effort. So you see those things going live as you roll out, and then post go live, we're going to support with a hypercare period, if you will, some hand holding. Maybe it's to work with you through the next 4 quarterly updates, or through 2 payroll cycles, or some type of support process and period like that. And again, if we've linked to some risk-based metrics, those risk-based metrics will still be in play. And you always have a series of learning videos and whatnot from us to help move things forward. So as we talk about moving things forward, I'm going to let Kevin kind of wrap things up and talk about transitioning.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. So, I mean, hopefully you've gotten a little perspective in, that whole transition of moving, PeopleSoft HCM to the Oracle Cloud. Hopefully we've kind of demystified some of the things that are out there. You can see that, there are some very prescriptive processes for this. We've done it a lot with a lot of other clients and been very successful. And I think, when you walk away today, hopefully you can have that confidence that, hey, there is a process that can help you in that journey to the cloud. And that it's obviously something that's very viable and needful for a lot of organizations. So, as we talk about that transition, just some of the value that's brought to the organizations obviously is having a single data model of truth, right? Consolidating those disparate systems inside the organization, versus using, a payroll system and a recruiting system and a learning system and a talent. You can kind of consolidate these obviously into one area and have that source of truth that you're able to report against, in the cloud. Having that opportunity to access, the edges of your organization and beyond, right? Providing that mobile experience, or having the opportunity to access, information for somebody who's sitting offsite is a big deal. But more importantly, what we're seeing is that a lot of C-level executives really like the opportunity they have to be able to pull information out of the system very quickly without having to deploy a team to run through, Excel spreadsheets and derive, reporting tools that they can give to the board. This is very useful for the organization, makes them more agile, and allows them to pivot in a lot of areas. And you heard Jamie talk about the assistance, the digital assistance, right, and the automation process that takes a lot of those manual things out of the organization and really, streamlines that is a beautiful thing. Hopefully you leave here knowing that there is a path, that there is a journey, and it's clear. And hopefully you'll understand that there is a way of being able to take your PeopleSoft to the cloud, and there's opportunity to kind of de-risk, the overall project by leveraging someone with experience, which also helps control cost. And so what we'll do is we'll leave you. We always, I think about my closet, and sometimes things get shoved in there. You don't always know what's there, right? So the question is, what's in your PeopleSoft closet, and how can we help you understand what's there? And more importantly, how can we help map out your journey of moving PeopleSoft to the cloud? And, that assessment that Jamie had kind of walked through on a high level, it is free. And, it's something that we'd love to assist and have a conversation or help you out with. So with that being said, I think we're going to open it up to some questions here, Jamie. And, I saw one come through. Oftentimes people, Jamie, they want to know about this assessment, what features or feature-to-feature mapping, and how much time and effort is required from, an organization's team to do this. Do you want to kind of spearhead that one?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Good question. I mean, it's a very reasonable question. So first off, the assessment is really we'll send you a link to an exec file that you get to run, and we'll be able to extract a great deal of data from that. From there, there might be a need for some back and forth questions to clarify some of the data or some of the things that we've identified, and then we'll start to build that mapping. So our experience has been that the time and effort on the customer side is minimal, but the return and the insight that they've received has been significant. I'm working with a client currently, and we had done an assessment, and what they were able to identify the volume of the customizations and the like. They weren't even aware of a lot of things, so it really helped clarify what their journey looked like.
Perfect. And maybe another one I see here, Jamie, and this is actually another common one too, as we're talking about HCM. That's very interesting. The question says they use third-party time clocks and steps in a staff scheduling solution. So how would they integrate with Oracle? You wanna take that as well?
Yeah, I mean, integrating the time clocks is not an issue. It's just a data source. And if you're using a third-party staff scheduling solution, again, we can integrate that solution with Oracle. Evosys also, as one of those healthcare accelerators, build out a staff scheduling solution to give healthcare organizations the ability to manage that 24/7 scheduling process. So that's another area that, again, that experience and that acumen within the industry has given us the ability to create things to the benefit of our customers. But at the end of the day, the integration with the Oracle Cloud is much easier, and the tools are there. The Oracle Integration Cloud is a great tool to use to move forward.
Awesome. Just another question that kind of comes in here that's come in, and I can actually take this one too. But the question is, with COVID, have we seen success in implementing, not necessarily being on site? So good question, and it gets asked a lot as Jamie and I are having conversations as people are looking at moving forward with this stuff. We've actually kicked off, I think, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, a little more than 80 projects, I want to say, over the last year and a half that have all kind of been done remotely. Is that right?
Yeah, something around that. And some of them are very large, multi-million dollar, multi-location, maybe in some cases multi-country projects. So yeah, it's learning to work remote and interact remote has been something that we had done a long time ago, but we can accommodate whatever an organization needs, a combination of on-site, onshore, offshore, really have a flexible model to give them what they need at the end of the day.
Yeah, we kind of, to that question, we had already kind of been leveraging a hybrid model in some of our projects just to, help control costs in some areas. And so our organization was really kind of already tooled for this, opportunity to, work remotely if the situation needed. And so for us, it was a pretty quick adoption and pretty quick and easy way for us to leverage the resources that we have remotely versus kind of being on site. We are starting to see things kind of pick up where organizations are allowing people to come on site, but that is a common concern that comes up, and a lot of customers want to know if necessary, or if there's some type of inflamed situation with COVID, do we have that ability? And the answer is yes. And we've had a lot of successful go lives over the last 2 years as a result of that, as well as other project kickoffs. So, Jamie, I think that's all the questions I see coming in through the chat. Anything else out there that you would want to throw out to the audience before we close this session up?
Yeah, just one last comment. The value in moving to the Oracle Cloud isn't just technology. As you can see, there's a lot of business value within the HR business operation that you can take advantage of. And also think about the fact that your candidates, the recruits that are interacting with the solution, they're getting a feel for your organization and the fact that you're using state-of-the-art tools within the organization, and start to expose them. Hopefully reduce that time to recruit, reduce the number of ghosts that you get in that recruitment process, and the candidates that you lose during the process, so you can facilitate the process and better insight to the organization overall.
Perfect. Just one last thing I think that I would throw in there, obviously there's a lot to think about as it relates to, making this transition or even transformation for some organizations, right? And I think hopefully today you'll walk away with knowing that there are organizations like us that have an absolute understanding of what that takes to move to the cloud. Jamie and I would love to talk to you if you're interested in having a deeper conversation around doing an assessment for your organization. And maybe just something to think about, these assessments require very little lifting from the organization itself. The output which is produced is absolutely insightful and allows organizations to really, I think, have that confidence that it's not only time but necessary to make that jump, to the cloud. And we'd love to help you leverage those tools, to make those calculated business decisions and help the organization become more agile. So with that being said, we sure appreciate your time today. And, again, reach out to us with any additional questions. And we will send this recording out to those of you that are interested, and appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.